What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bingetown TV and Buzztown TV. We are back with another Yellowjackets episode. Thank God we were all mad that we had a week off, but me and Jimmy, who's not on this pod right now, took the time to do a theories episode, just an hour full of all the theories we've been seeing online, things we've come up with. So go check that out if you haven't. But today we've got the A team. Sorry, Jimmy, not that you're not on the A team, but we've got Luke, Brian, and Dave for episode 6 titled Qui, which is a French word that means who, that, or which. And I'm going to do our little summary. So we are back after a week off from our beloved Yellowjackets, and things are really coming to a head. Usually I'd have a lot more details in the summary, but I think it can be summed up in this one run-on sentence, which is, in 1996, we find out the fate of Shauna's wilderness baby finally. And in current day, as producer Dave has said, the Avengers have assembled and the girlies are finally back together again. Now, that has no details about the actual episode, but that's really what's yeeting us into the rest of the season for season 2. Another great episode, a banger, especially at the end, really had me screaming. So I'm going to toss it to the boys. What did you guys think?
I don't know if A team should be our name, maybe varsity and JV, because we are talking Yellowjackets here. So the varsity team is stepping up to play. We all know how the Yellowjacket JV team lost quite a few games, but yeah, this was Dave. I think you sent in the chat. This episode was a little bit of a letdown or a disappointment, but the end had us like on the edge of our seats. I wouldn't entirely agree from that. I don't want to say it was slow because it was the Shauna in labor. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening. I was thoroughly entertained from start to finish. Maybe that's just because I love this show so much and there's never going to be a bad episode. But the ending stuff, that was some... I'm very excited to dissect that entire sequence with Shauna when she was unconscious. What's the relevant stuff that she saw? And then, yeah, how fantastic is it the Avengers have assembled? And I think I nailed that theory. That's where they had to be, all at the compound together. And I do not have my hoodie on, but I believe someone in the YouTube comments shouted me out. Hoodie boy got that one right. Me and him together on an island, man, just getting theories right all day long.
Yeah, so I think I texted in our group chat that it was a little bit of a letdown originally, but after my second watch through with Luke, felt much better about the episode overall. I guess I think I was just very excited for this episode, getting the week off, and the baby had been hyped up for, over a season. So I was expecting a little less labor and more so spiritual shit, I guess, happening. But again, going back in the rewatch, still, I think honestly, going back and rewatching, I would put this into my top 5 of episodes all time for Yellowjackets, I think. Like, I think Snacky would still be above it. Maybe the 2 episodes from the finale in season 1. But definitely rewatching it, I have come to appreciate that this episode was in fact a banger, and I'm just so excited to be back on the sticks. It feels like it's been so long since we've been recording together.
Yeah, I went in with low expectations because of that text V-Tom's just mentioned, and banger. This was a great episode for me. I was willing to come onto the podcast and say, okay, I'll flag plant that I like this episode the best if you guys were going to agree with Dave's take there, but it seems like we're all kind of in agreement that it was a really good episode. And one thing I'd like to point out is always the IMDb ratings of episodes when we're talking about them here. And for those that don't know, they're always changing. And because of how soon we record podcasts, sometimes they change from the time of the recording. So I think that was the case with the last episode, because the last episode, Two Truths and a Lie, was the highest rated of all time, but it fell a little bit and it's now tied for second. And a lot of the episodes Dave was just mentioning there are actually tied for second. So right now on IMDb, there's 4 episodes with an 8.1, and it's Two Truths and a Lie, the Snacky episode, and then the episode 9 and 10 of season 1. This episode 2.6 is actually the highest rated of the series. It was 8.5 yesterday. It's 8.4 today. So it'll probably settle around still the highest of the series, which is great news because it just feels like the whole season 2 is going to hit mainstream because of how up and up each of these episodes are. But I wouldn't say it was the best of all time. I still really enjoyed it. And I was ecstatic with how the cop timeline turned out. And I cannot wait to talk about Callie and Shauna and then fucking Jay, Matt. I hate that motherfucker.
Callie gets her funniness from Jeff. She has to, I mean, Shauna's hilarious too, but she doesn't mean to be hilarious. She just is. But Dave, really quick, I think that maybe in your first watch, the original letdown may have been because she had the baby and the baby was fine. And it's kind of like not anticlimactic, but probably like, oh, okay, she has this baby. Now what? And I think after you know what actually happens, when you watch it your second time, like Brian says, you want to know what she's dreaming about, or like if she's like almost dying. Is it that another one of like Jackie almost died? Jackie did die, but we got to see like the right before, and with Lottie when she was at the mall. Is that a type of limbo again, or was it just a dream? We don't know, but I think I know where you're coming from, Dave. But I
just felt like a little slow. I guess like the whole pregnancy thing it felt like it dragged on, but again, there was a lot of like intermediate things that we had to kind of get coverage on before getting to the wrap up of like the childbirth and everything.
Yeah.
So,
And let's talk about that for a second, because it has been a while. It's been 2 weeks, but at the end of our last podcast episode, we went around and did a board prediction for what we thought the outcome of the birth was going to be. And B-Toms, yesterday in our Yellowjackets group chat, Dave was calling you out for some things, calling you an asshole or whatever he was saying. And this was all related to the board guesses, because we went back and listened to the end of the podcast after we watched the episode just to hear how we all predicted this was going to turn out. And me and Dave predicted that the baby was going to be dead on arrival.
DOA, baby.
Yeah. Kathleen said the crazy prediction that the baby was gonna live and become
a character.
Yeah, something. Either way.
Yeah.
Brian thought the baby was gonna live as well. So me and Dave got that right, and then that's why he was shitting on you for shitting on him for his theory or something like that.
We'll get into it
Yeah.
more when we get to that scene. But yeah.
I believe it was suck my ass.
Yes, I wasn't going to correct him, but that is exactly what was said. And to be fair, I'm a little bit of a theory elitist, so that does sound like something I would do, is talking down on Dave's ridiculous theory. That was totally 100% right. Just gotta fake it till you make it on this podcast.
That's true.
It wasn't 100% right, but we'll get there.
But before we jump in, I just want to talk about, so Yellowjackets season 3 was day one in the writers' room and got halted, of course, because of the strike. So I think collectively as a podcast, we would like to say, fucking pay them now. We don't want delays. Pay them. They deserve it. The whole reason we're here doing podcasts is because they write phenomenal TV shows that we can talk about. Okay. So just pay them.
And if it's going to take the time, like, delay it. Do not just rush through and just start writing things to get the content out there. Delay it. Let's do this right.
Yes, please. Listen
to
us.
Don't get bums off the street that will cross the picket line. We don't want them. We want the good ones.
Yellowjackets is a fucking gold mine. Don't fuck it up.
Yep.
Exactly. All right. So, shall we 1996? All right. So, just to preface this, even if this wasn't like a sci-fi show, whatever it was, just to be teenagers in the woods, dirty, disgusting, starving, trying to help your friend have her baby is just so devastating, and incredible acting by all, but especially young Shauna, of course. Like, she should get the Emmy nod for this, I think, and she will be, I believe, in the lead actress category. So I think that's what Melanie Linsky was saying. So, fingers crossed. I thought it was excellent. But let's start with the rare flashback of the kids in school, because we haven't gotten that since season 1, really early, the pilot. Of course, we haven't really gotten anything since. So I loved it. It kind of reminds you that they were all kids in school at once, because later when Jeff says like, oh, hi, Van, it's kind of nice that you're like, they sat next to each other in anatomy class or whatever it was, So let's, open the floor. Hefe the dog couldn't help but send Shauna a little dirty note and just risk it all. But that's my main point. But what do you guys have to say?
My only thing that I noticed here was, of course, Coach Ben Scott. I don't think he looked at the actual TV screen once. I'm pretty sure he was facing the students the whole time. So if you go back and rewatch, it kind of makes sense on why he chose to opt out of not helping with the baby birth when push came to shove. But also there was, like, granted, a lot of blood, so I'll give that to him as well. But yeah, you could tell like he just wasn't focused on the video at all. He was just there to teach, and so that kind of explains why he was so bad in that moment with Shauna's delivery.
I have 2 comments for this scene. One is they're absolute cowards for not having Jackie in this scene. And then 2 is like, I love these pre-Forest clips of the girls, like the young actors. It's amazing for me. But just the way that this whole scene played out, turned into that perfect transition into Shauna screaming and like giving birth with the music. That was freaking amazing. I forget what's
Chili Peppers.
Yeah, it was Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Woo!
Yes, it was so well done, and it just pumped me up. And I do like that they showed that Jeff did have legitimate interest in Shauna, like more than I kind of had in my head as just like a random hookup. But yeah.
Agreed. I love when they show us like them actually in high school. It just like solidifies who they are as characters, even in the wilderness. Like Ty and Van were fucking around with Randy, who was trying to say only magnums for me, baby. Randy. No, that was fantastic. And then yeah, the smash cut to just full on Shauna in labor, and Misty Quigley's the OBGYN on call. So, and I believe that leads us right into our opening title sequence. So that was like just a phenomenal cold opening.
Back-to-back bangers. Yeah, we get the song of woo, and then right into the intro song. That shot was so perfect.
Yeah. And Misty's tripping out because one, this is nuts. The blood, everything, but also it's giving her PTSD from having just killed her friend. And I mean, we talked about on the theories episode, the whole crystal could have been a hallucination of Misty or just like an imaginary friend. But Lottie looks at Misty right in her face and said, like, I know that Crystal's gone, but we can help Shauna right now. So I think, I mean, they still could twist you up in it, but yeah, Misty can't handle it. Ben Scott gets the call. And Dave, I know you're giving him some like, blood. No, fuck that. He's the adult. Get in there.
I agree. Definitely still agreeing with you that in my second rewatch with Luke, I'm literally like, stop being such a bitch and get the fuck in there. Like, you're the adult here. Like, you were the health teacher. Get the fuck in there and do something.
Yep. Totally agree.
I mean, I think they're setting this up for Coach Scott to be the next, like, person to get eaten because you're the adult. You're supposed to step in and help for these crazy situations. We're just kid. If you're not even able to assert yourself and help in that type of a situation, like, why are we keeping you around, dude?
This kind of leads into the conversation. It felt pretty isolated, so I'll bring it up now. Is what was the deal with the Coach Ben flash to the other cabin, like with his boys and Paul, and then there's a quick shot of him with the antlers too behind him there. I don't know if that's just symbolism.
Yeah, you didn't see that, B. Toms?
But
I don't know that there's anything substantial within the flashback. I think he's just freaking out and kind of being like, God, I wish I was anywhere but here. Like,
yeah,
it's just that weird that every time they do this, Coach Scott specifically, they have that weird transition. Like it's like almost like a old static, school TV show. TV, and it's only for him. And this is like the third time they've done it. It's probably just like a motif for Coach Scott.
Yeah,
but I don't really understand what's going on there because I'm not learning anything about him.
I mean, the only thing, I agree. I don't know what the purpose is necessarily, but the only thing obviously like you had mentioned that was interesting was the fact that when he was playing charades there were the antlers behind him, which kind of goes into what we've been talking about as a running theory, that whatever the antler queen is or whoever it is could bounce around from person to person. That's how I kind of took it, like Coach Scott at some point might be the antler queen or whatever, and he might be the one wrote, I'm not too sure, but that was the only thing that I gathered from that backstory, was that the antlers were behind Coach Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to think if they're giving us more antler symbolism for like everybody in the cabin, it
Travis
might just be
too, I think, like not in this episode particularly, but I think Lottie we've seen have the antlers. I think Travis has had a shot with the antlers, and now we see Coach Scott. So there is multiple people getting the antlers.
I'm starting to think that's just confirming what they're figuring out in the 2020s, which is the darkness is in all of us. It gotten us there and we brought it back with us, of course. But I'm starting to think that's what they might be doing with the Antler Queen stuff. But yeah, Luke, I don't really read into how they kind of transition into Coach Scott's stuff. I think they've been doing that for like the past 4 episodes. He's like in a rough spot. He can't deal with anything. And he's just kind of questioning his life decisions like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My only complaint of this scene was when Misty storms off and Aquila is now up to bat for helping Misty or Shauna with the baby. She literally touches fucking mouse and then goes in hands deep into Shauna's vagina. I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, they were just talking about boiling water, keeping everything safe, and then Aquila's out here just like touching this mouse and getting it in there.
Germ theory, baby.
Yeah, where are the germ theories at?
I did like when Nat. First of all, I had that written down, Dave. So thank you. I was like, what? No, the wilderness rat. Don't touch it. But the women have been having babies for millions of years. It's fine. Akila's got this, and Akila's like, what the fuck? First of all, Nat is true. That's the mindset you have to have in this. They have been having babies for millions of years, and we've only had modern medicine for 100 or something like that. So that is the mindset to go in. But her just, instead of her being like, I got this, she just hands it to Akila, is so funny.
Also,
Nat killing it.
Also, fuck Mari for let's Lottie says, let's all give our hopes of what we want to happen, and Mari immediately like, I hope Shauna doesn't die, and it's like, why are you saying like Mari taking L after L after L? Fuck her. That's all I wanted to
Always.
say. We needed to get our Mari hate on here somehow, so I thought this was the perfect time.
I mean,
Yeah.
Speaking of the Lottie stuff, should we talk about the ritual going on the sidelines this whole time? Travis brings the whatever skull out, offers some blood, a lock of Lottie's hair. I think Van gives a button. Just more crazy blood magic. Do we think that has anything to do with the outcome of the birth?
So I do want to talk about that specifically, but first, Nat in season 1, adult Nat, when Travis had killed himself and all the candles were everywhere, and she said Travis never believed in any of this stuff. It's like, you watched him do blood on this, like, on these bones in front of the fire while the baby was happening. He's like crying. He's one of the first ones in. So I had the same thought, Brian. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with it, but it doesn't not have anything to do with it. You know, you'll never know whether or not, like, maybe them doing the ritual helped Shauna live, even though the baby didn't. So maybe it was a good thing. Maybe it was a terrible thing. Or maybe it had nothing to do with anything at all.
I don't know why I was expecting any other answer, because that's 90% of this show at this point. It's like, maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
I'm with you, Kathleen, though. I actually thought that the ritual had now worked in favor of Shauna because, I mean, I'm not an expert of childbirth. I don't know what it's like. I've never really seen it besides the Miracle of Life video in health class years ago. But Shauna looked to be in some rough fucking shape. Like, I don't know if that's how most women look during labor, but she actually, we didn't know that Shauna was alive in the present, I would have honestly assumed that this might have been it for her. So I'm thinking maybe the ritual did rather like help Shauna rather than the baby. Maybe the wilderness wanted to keep Shauna alive because, you know, it's the darkness isn't all of them kind of thing. But it was weird. Luke even thought when he was watching, he thought once they started doing the ritual, the baby was 100% going to live because of the ritual. And I don't know what you guys were thinking in that moment, but honestly, now that I think back on it, I actually thought the baby was probably going to live because, like, I was thinking that the baby was going to survive because of what they were doing. So it was kind of a shock to me at the end to find out that it just hadn't at all.
So I'm so happy you brought up the Travis thing, Kathleen, because I wrote that down as well, like the believing stuff. But yeah, in terms of like the baby, what I'm stuck on is that Lottie earlier this season was saying that the baby's going to change everything. And I'm still in the mindset where she hasn't been wrong yet, Lottie. So there has to be some sort of cause and effect of this baby being born. And I still feel like the ritual is going to be a key piece of that. It's going to be pivotal to decide whatever the wilderness wants, or something's going to come of this. Like, they could even still use the baby as part of like a ritual, because we know that blood's kind of involved with a lot of these things.
Just thinking that, like, if they've already used like a bear heart as a sacrifice, like,
why not a baby?
Why not? Yeah, like a fetus. That, you know, I think that would definitely have some kind of plot into whatever Lottie wants to do for sure.
Because this is, to me, a big. I'm not predicting that this is going to be a miss of a plot point, but like it will be if nothing more comes of the baby, and it's just done. Like, that would not have been satisfying enough for me.
I think the baby's life was offered through the ritual to the forest spirit, the wild. What did we decide we're calling it? The darkness? No, we said that's too dark.
The wilderness seems to be something they said multiple times this episode, which kind of
just called the forest god, now that we got that confirmed.
Either way, I feel like for the next episode or two, shit's gonna start going right for them. They're gonna get more meat and stuff, and it's like, oh, right after this baby came out dead and you guys were doing some crazy blood magic, all this great stuff is happening. And also Lottie's been saying like it wants blood, like it demands blood, shit like that. Baby's gonna change everything. Also, like, with her unconscious dreams and stuff, Lottie's looking up and is like, you'll understand soon. I feel like when we see Lottie in kind of dream sequences like that, like remember Travis's weird stuff when he was having sex with Nat / Lottie. I feel like when we see Lottie like that, that is supposed to represent forest spirit, like speaking through Lottie, because that's just an image that they could comprehend and be comfortable with.
No, I like that a lot. That's a good prediction of what's going to happen.
Feeding felt like one of the big themes of the whole hypothetical situation of when Shauna was alive or when the baby was hypothetically alive in Shauna's imagination, like it was emphasized, not even just for the baby, but Shauna, it was just like food, eating, things like that. So
yeah,
I think you're right. I really like that theory, B-Toms. Like I think the sacrifice, your baby died because the sacrifice probably went as it was supposed to, and now they're going to just get good shit start happening to them.
Just want to add to your point here, B-Toms, that or I guess highlight you a little bit more here, putting you on the board, because there was no trailer for this episode, for the next episode, at least for what we watched. So I have no idea Kathleen, did you see a trailer for the next episode?
Nope.
I don't know if that was purposeful or not, but either way, that means if you nail that, B-Toms, that's straight off the dome.
I don't think I've ever seen a trailer though, because I stream it. So I think I'd have to seek out a trailer.
It usually plays after we watch our episodes on Paramount Plus, but I don't know.
It didn't go into it. Usually it just goes right into the next episode, but it didn't this time.
Either way,
I watch on Showtime anytime.
Idea of what's going to happen next episode yet, so
cool. Okay, well, just to touch on what Dave said about like you don't really know what it's like when a woman gives birth, like what her state is. So I have something to say. So the placenta comes first, which immediately I thought that was the baby because I'm stupid and I don't know anything. And it was just like a big glob. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. And I was scared. But anyway, so I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure the placenta is supposed to come after the baby. So that probably is a telltale sign. I was trying to Google whether or not the placenta can come first, if that's healthy, but I wasn't really getting anything back. I think it was misunderstanding my Google. But like Lottie's pep talks Misty, they all start doing the we hear the wilderness and it hears us type deal, and then Shauna passes out. So then from here on is all fake until we find out it's not. So it's either the dream or whatever. So Dave, what I liked about this is when Shauna is like devastated and trying to breastfeed this baby, and Nat's like, you are starving. Like, how could your body produce milk? If so this isn't just me being 9 months pregnant. I'm like a normal girl who lives in the city and I eat every day and everything. And then I go out camping and try to have a baby. It's like this person hasn't eaten anything besides her best friend in weeks and months and shit. So like, there's just no way that like to think that this baby was ever going to be healthy is kind of a crazy thing. Right. Now that I'm thinking about it, because you forget, you're just like, yeah, let's have this baby. It's TV. But I really think it was a long shot that this baby was ever going to survive. And I wonder, they should have done some like in previous episodes, like the baby moving, or I think at one point she says like maybe the baby was kicking, but we didn't get any like sign of life in the last few weeks. You would have to assume that Shauna was feeling the baby move up until the end, or else they would have concerns earlier. So just in general, like having a baby in the wilderness when you haven't eaten for months, like Shauna looks like that because one, she's probably on the brink of death from starvation anyway, and she's eating for 2. So that's just my little rant.
It's almost like not even worth talking about a lot of the things that happened because it's all a vision. Like we can kind of cut to the end of it. But as I also, just before I forget it, I don't know if we said when they were doing this chant, which causes her to pass out and then go into this vision, Taissa was the last one to start talking and actually saying it, which was very surprising. I didn't know she was going to participate or not. I think Nat is the only one that didn't, right?
Yeah, Nat was the only one that
like saying the ritual. Yeah.
Shauna,
Okay. Well, Ty would have done anything to save Shauna at that point.
I don't think Misty was saying it, or Akila.
I think Akila was.
Akila might have. Yeah, she might have joined at that point.
I don't remember Misty's shot, but one thing I'll really bring up is I just think it's so like when Misty gets herself together and goes back to Shauna and she's like eyes wide open, like everything's gonna be
yeah. Oh my gosh,
that was fucking crazy. Yeah. Oh my god.
I think young Misty, if we're talking about the kids that deserve some recognition come award season, I think young Misty is in that boat. She's been fantastic.
We were born a day apart in real life.
What?
Wow. Is she the 20th or the 18th?
She's the 20th.
Wow. Okay.
How about
She
that,
was
huh?
like 10 years younger than me. I did not know she was 27.
What does that make you? What sign are you? And her.
Virgo.
Okay.
Okay. Mitzi's a Virgo.
All right. So basically the premise of this whole thing is the baby won't latch. She's trying to connect to the baby. We'll talk about two scenes. One specific one is the Lottie one. I think that's probably the most important story-wise, which is Lottie ends up breastfeeding this baby. First of all, this baby, the biggest telltale sign that this was fake is that was the biggest baby I've ever seen. This baby would have been like a malnourished, like I don't want to see that, but also this baby was the cutest, biggest baby ever. That baby was well fed.
Giant baby.
Alki said the same thing. He like when they were getting close up of the baby, Alki was like, "That thing is fucking huge." And I was like, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, you're right. That was like thing was probably at least 10 pounds, at least.
Yeah. So I thought Lottie was breastfeeding this baby. Thoughts?
I mean, besides the fact that it didn't actually happen, yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
She was definitely breastfeeding in that moment. And it goes into, her whispering into Shauna's belly, the whole, the baby's going to change how we, the next few months, whatever. But it was wild. Lottie, thankfully it wasn't real, I guess, because that would have been so weird.
So like she has a slip of tongue too when she's like, he's hungry or Lottie says he's hungry and you aren't producing milk. She says like, we need to feed. And Shauna's like, what? And he's like, he needs to feed.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And then she says, you'll understand soon enough. What do we think the significance of this whole vision is? And I do want to point out that right when this whole vision sequence starts, it's another one of those, like, she's just waking up from childbirth and all of them are very close, like beaming from ear to ear, which we saw when Jackie passed away and someone else. I feel like
Lottie went into into her elevator scene.
Everyone was there and everybody was just like beaming from ear to ear. I think that's going to be going forward a telltale sign that we are in an NDE experience. And I feel like that's exactly what this was. I feel like whatever Lottie was saying in this dream sequence, going back to my theory earlier, I think was probably the wilderness spirit talking to Shauna. And I'm almost thinking she was trying to show Shauna, look, if you were able to have this baby, you wouldn't be able to feed it. You are starving. Like that was the entire point of this vision. So maybe just like cushioning the blow a little bit that this baby is dead, trying to show where this baby would not have survived even if it was healthy right after giving birth, And
let's be completely honest, like it is an absolute win for the Yellowjackets that this baby did not survive.
1,000,000%.
Food, the crying, this baby's crying was whack. Like the way that the producers decided to make the sound of the baby crying.
Totally agree.
It was like out of this world. Like I had never heard a baby like that. But this is a just all around win. Let's be honest. As long as Shauna doesn't have any like permanent damage, which we know because she survives, she doesn't. So this was
I think it directly impacts how she's acting in this very moment in current day.
Sure, but
like her breaking down at the police station is like, I have a whole spiel on like Shauna's trauma and how the way she acts now, like we couldn't ever have understood why she acts the way she does until we see this scene. And to counter Luke, you saying, she couldn't have taken care. It's probably for the best. I think it actually does the opposite because Shauna has this visceral memory of actually loving and knowing her baby now and like looking it in the face, latching, the speech she gives in the next scene, just being like, I'm sorry. I didn't think I wanted you. Like, I love you. We're going to do this together. You have to latch. Like, beautiful, gorgeous scene. Obviously, it didn't happen, but to her, when she's sobbing at the end, being like, how can you not hear him crying? I can still hear him. Why do you not hear him? Like, she's having a literal meltdown. So it was never going to be easy, but it's fucking brutal. This was like an A+. It was funny. I think Alex was like, someone was saying, like, she's giving the performance of her lifetime, and the rest of them are just like, around the side. Had an easy day.
Yeah.
I liked everything you just said there, B. Toms, except for maybe you just used not a word that I would have used, but like the cushioning, like to help make Shauna feel better about like the baby actually dying, or soften the blow or whatever,
Yeah.
then why would the spore spirit have Shauna listen and be able to hear the cries of the baby? Like, it felt like the moment Shauna unwrapped and saw the face of the baby, that's when she could start hearing the cries.
So I have a theory about that. I think she might very well be hearing that baby cry. The baby may have ended up in whatever the limbo other side that Jackie and Laura Lee are at. And maybe the baby and Shauna have a weird connection, because I feel really good that was an NDE, because they were like, we thought we lost you. Like,
I like that.
I think that was an NDE, and also Mari can hear like the dripping. That seems like it's under the same umbrella. People are just like hearing shit that they can't see.
Do we think Lottie in Shauna's hallucination was like a representation of the forest god, forest spirit?
That's kind of what I think, if it goes along with my working theory.
I think that ties in better with your working theory. Yeah, that if what we saw in that vision was not Lottie and just the forest spirit itself.
Seems like we're working with a soft magic system here, so it's like not gonna have all the edges, ironed out yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. And then the last thing here that I wanted, the reason I told B Toms to suck my ass is because last episode I had theorized that they were going to eat the baby, and B Toms proceeded to shit on that. Like, oh, I draw the line at baby eating, but they showed the scene, and that's why I wanted B Toms to suck my ass, because they actually went that route and showed baby eating.
Yeah, and then the exact next scene, they confirmed that it didn't happen.
Yeah, but
That's what I told him.
They showed it.
Doesn't count. Oh my gosh.
But I think Brian also still draws the line there. I don't think he takes that back at all. I think he does still draw.
Toms thought it was so ridiculous, but it actually was shown on screen that they were baby eating for a little.
The only lines I'm drawing are going to be in the shape of a triangle with two diagonal lines going through it and a little fucking circle at the top.
It was a very well asked question in between season 1 and 2. Like, the showrunners and the actors answered it multiple times. We knew going into this season that they were not going to eat the baby. I don't know, Kathleen, you've seen that before, right? Yeah. So that was just a thing that I always had in the back of my head, just because they have confirmed it so many times. They didn't want people to have expectations that we could go that route.
I mean,
they still showed it, though.
I was going to ask, are they going to eat the baby now? But
that's
two
what
things.
I said after the episode 2 is like, now
they
eat the baby,
So I think that the baby looks probably a lot different than the baby Shauna had in her vision, right? For me, in my head, I was thinking this baby may have been like underdeveloped or something like that. Like maybe something happening with this baby, because she looks and sees the baby and immediately is like whatever. But this baby was probably like maybe even purple or blue. Like if it didn't breathe, if it couldn't breathe and whatever.
Yeah.
So
more Horcrux.
yeah. Wow. Yeah. But yeah. So when Ben Scott was eating the baby, I was like I was bought in fully. I wasn't thinking it was fake at all. When I saw Ben and Nat turns around with this like sorrow look in her eyes, like, I'm so sorry, but I'm doing this anyway. God, it's so sick.
I was flabbergasted for a hot second. Not gonna lie. I'm like, okay.
Dave, back me up. I wasn't flabbergasted. I knew right away that it was fake.
Yeah, Luke didn't know that it was fake, and I was pissed about it. But do we think there was any relevance of them actually showing Ben Scott eating the baby? Like, does that symbolize him potentially maybe not being eaten, but being an eater? Like, he was the one judging everyone for eating, but do we think of in the future it's more likely that he is going to eat also now? There was
maybe a wow factor.
Yeah,
it could be just a wow factor.
Yeah,
I think it was a wow factor.
Well, listen, morale is low at the cabin after this.
Boy, yeah.
The cries after young Ty was doing crazy good acting too, even with she didn't have many lines, but she had some good jabs at like Mari and stuff, but also just lots of crying and protecting her girl. So all good acting all around. Morale is low, but a good 1996 episode to be sure.
Agreed.
One thing where I keep doing this. One more thing I want to bring up is: do we think what they were saying before the vision, we hear the forest and it hears us, is tied to what Shauna was saying at the end of the vision? Why can't you hear it? I just want to put that on the board because they are somewhat related. So I just want to see if, keep it on the board for potentially if something does connect the two in the future, that, she was saying, why can't you hear it? while they at the beginning were saying we hear it, basically. So just want to.
And since we're leaving the 1996 storyline, I just want to say, like, appreciate all the comments on the theories on the theory video on YouTube. A lot of things were related to the crystal theory that seemed to get the most people.
Yeah.
And B times, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to that, but the whole idea was just Misty. There was like this working theory that Crystal was in her head. It was a imaginary friend. But even this episode specifically, I think it gets confirmed that she kind of was real when Lottie.
Yeah.
Like Lottie has conversation with her. Mari does with the jobs. Like you two pick cards. I don't know. I think there's not
Lottie
enough there.
Specifically says like Crystal's no longer here with us.
Right.
You're here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just wanted to point that out there because a lot of people were talking about that on the YouTube.
Would've been
and
cool.
Yeah. Would have been a really fun
Yeah.
theory to explore. But
Man, they let Crystal go so fast. They were like, can't deal with it.
Yep.
Have something else.
Yep.
Okay. 2021. Presumably. I was saying I was going to move on to 1997 in the past, but I still keep saying 1996. But 2021, current day, we're going to start in Lottie Town, okay? At the Colt, we're in New York City. Not really, but New York. Okay. So, Misty shows up after her last episode, ditching Walter, shows up. She has to release all of her things. She's reunited with Lottie. And Lottie, I think the main thing in this is she has this little brain thing where she kind of like loses, like she's like, ooh, like she gets lightheaded or something. And she goes to Missy. She's like, you have to stay. You have to stay, like stay for a day or whatever. And at this point, Misty's just here to get Nat back and be like, what's going on here? But of course, Misty gets roped in by all the people liking her and wanting to fucking talk to her. But really quickly, Lottie's goes back to the therapist, right? And she's trying to explain that she doesn't think she's ever been ill and that they've been like sending people to her to show her that it was all real and it wasn't a sickness. So before we dive into that, so many people in this episode kept being like, wait, Lottie, no, you mean she's like, and they don't finish their sentence, but they mean like, I thought she was in a loony bin somewhere in a different country. Like they can't even believe that Lottie's coherent, which is crazy. So obviously they have not heard from Lottie in 25 years. Like this has just been a full nothing. Like Misty couldn't find her, nothing. So I think that was all interesting. But so any of that opening till like the therapist, what do you got?
Just thought it was funny that Misty's carrying around brass knuckles.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, the big scene for me was the therapist scene. I mean, we get confirmation that there's a god. They called it a god, so it wasn't a ghost. It wasn't anything along those lines. It was a god of that place. I just think that's interesting. I mean, we've been calling it the forest spirit for so long now. It's good to get that confirmation that all this stuff hasn't been red herrings. We've always believed it not to be, but it's good to get that confirmation. And now we, I guess, can start referring to this thing as the forest god going forward whenever they're in 1996. I don't know. I feel like there's obviously got to be a lot more from that particular scene with the therapist because, I don't know if you guys watched with closed captioning or subtitles, but it was capitalized. So just a lot of good stuff from that therapy session. I just like that we get the confirmation that they aren't crazy. Everything was real. And I think if Lottie believes that, Lottie's law, I'm believing it too.
So the more the season 2 goes on, the happier I am with current day Lottie because she's getting painted less and less as like the main villain, which I originally thought she was going to be the main villain. And I'm very, very happy we're not taking that route. She keeps getting victimized and like I think like in the eyes of the wilderness, she is almost like the main character. So it's like so weird that everything's like spiraling around her and kind of converging everybody to the Colt's compound. This has been surprisingly one of my favorite parts of the season. Like since we got to this point, obviously you throw Nat, Misty, and Lottie into the same like storyline. It's going to be really fun. And that fucking tension, man, was so hot between Lottie and Misty, right? When they faced off in the beginning, I was living for it. Like, it's so great to see these girls come together, and we'll get to the Avengers Assemble moment, but it just keeps building, and like they all come to this spot. Like, this is going to be such an interesting part of the show for the next 3 episodes. 3? Do we have 3 left? 79?
79, 3 left.
That's so
It feels like in Game of Thrones when the Starks are all finally reuniting, and you're like, yeah, one by one, let's go.
So I like that you brought up, Kathleen, that Lottie had pretty much like a very quick change of emotion when she offered to have Misty stay at the resort. Do we think, because Misty shows up and Lottie is like completely blown away, like, what the fuck is Misty doing here? Yada, yada, yada. She does seem to have like, I guess, a mini vision is how I took it. Like maybe she's
Yeah.
future and she was like, oh, you know what? Like this would be helpful to determine what's going on with the forest god. Misty, stay a while. But I was just curious, do you guys think that maybe it was the forest god wanting her? Like, you know, kind of how like Taissa has a dual personality. Do we think maybe for whatever reason the forest god kind of took over Lottie for a second, was like, oh yeah, Misty's here, like this is what we want. Misty, stay a while. Or do we think that was just Lottie being genuine?
She played it off like she was attributing it to being helpful for Nat and Nat's experience. And that's kind of realistic, but the way she had that like click moment in her head seems to see there's a second layer of things going on.
Yeah, she was pissed and then like weirdly into it, you know, like happy.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. That's a good question though.
Yeah. I just wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't
so the next Misty scene fucking cracked me up. I had to rewind it because Misty fake bongoing was a 10 out of 10. She's just like this. Not even close to the bongo. Talking to the same guy who took her stuff. But she hates the cry session, but she wins the crowd over by telling them like, oh, I know Nat. And they all like light up. And knowing that, and Lottie, she says later, makes her feel like a celebrity. But I wanted to ask you guys, because as Nat's walking up, and we'll get to Nat, but as Nat's walking up to Misty in the cafeteria, Misty is telling a story, and the line is this: she was the most incredible athlete and dresser. She was just always such a talent. But you don't know who she's talking about. And it made me feel like Jackie. But because who was like the most amazing dresser? Maybe Lottie?
Yeah, I was thinking Lottie.
Not Nat.
Just
Lottie more than Nat.
She's so blinded by her love for Nat that it could like satirically be about Nat. Like even though she's monotone dressing all the time, like, it would be on par for her character.
Like, let me hype up my best friend.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's the most beautiful girl in the, you know, like she always says things like that. So it's just like, and how on par for Misty characters for her to become like a cult stud in like 5 minutes. Like absolutely just perfection.
She is just such a great actor here, especially when it's just like the awkward silence of like Nat just staring at her and Misty just again like big eyes, just like what's up? It's just so good. Like I can't get enough of Misty.
I know.
She's so amazing, young and older. So incredible.
Well, Nat's storyline culminates in this line that Nat says to her. Misty's doing all those faces and Nat saying, what happened to Walter, etc. And she's like, oh, I sent him home. And she's giving her the weird eyes. And Nat's like, fuck, we're all like this, aren't we? Like, we are so fucked up.
That's so great.
Because that's really Nat's storyline in this episode. It's really quick, but it's just she's spiraling post vision. And it's her and Lisa the whole episode, really. And she tells Lisa, you know, that she ruins people and she's poison and to stay away from her. And Lisa keeps trying to pep talk her and say, you know, Travis, whatever Travis had in him to make him kill himself, like that was art that was in him. Like it didn't have anything to do with you. There's nothing you could have said. And she was like, well, it's in me too. And her and Lottie in this episode both say we did so much fucked up shit out there. And Nat specifically says maybe it was to survive, but I don't think we deserve to, which is deep.
Yeah,
that hurts. But then the fish scene. Let's talk about the fish scene too. Open it up for anything, Nat.
I would have been furious if she killed that fish. I'm glad she had a change of heart and let it live. I don't know what to make of it. Yeah, I think it's just her just dealing post vision. I do really like how Lisa's there for her, just as like a sounding board. That's been a good asset to her. I don't know. I don't think it's that deep. It's just like she's in a very vulnerable state right now.
I just think it's interesting that we're watching her grow as a character.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she still seems like very against believing that what happened in the wilderness, you know, actually happened. Like she still denies what Travis said about her being right is still wrong. To her, she's like, Travis, you know, maybe he believed it or not, but you know, it seems like to me that Natalie still doesn't. I think basically what I'm getting at is the final stage of her growth is going to be accepting the fact that the wilderness spirit is real and that everything is because of this forest god.
I think she's getting there.
Right.
I think she believes that it's in all of them.
Yeah.
And I have
whatever
an
it
interesting
is.
comment about that once we get through Taissa and Van's storyline, because I mean we're kind of ready to
We're
move
there.
on to the next bucket,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we can talk about a bunch of these things here, but the one thing I'm just going to point out that's related to what we're talking about now is in the car ride to the compound, Van talking about Lottie basically calls her like a crazy schizo, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the implications of that actually like aren't my favorite, because what that implies is that Van, being a follower of the forest in 1996 and like leaning into all these rituals and stuff, something, I guess I should say, nothing happens that's crazy, explicit, supernatural to the group to convince them all that supernatural exists. Because if Van's out here saying that Lottie's crazy, that means we might not get anything like that wild you know what I mean? Am I making any sense there?
There's still a lot of time we got to see in the wilderness, and it seems like Van is a Lottie follower. That seems like her retroactively trying to distance herself from the nonsense. Like,
Okay.
I think there's going to be some crazy Lottie-led supernatural shit, and everybody's lasting impression of her is they send her to Switzerland or wherever for mental health reasons or something. I think she's like, oh, kooky Lottie? Yeah, I'm not into that stuff anymore.
Okay, so
Exactly.
more of like a revisionary thing where the people that
Yes.
survived the supernatural start saying like couldn't have been really supernatural. Lottie was crazy. I prefer that route than like nothing crazy explicit happens, because then it gets a little bit like
Yep.
I think Thomas is right on the money. And what also kind of would back it up a little bit to me is when, I know we're jumping ahead just a little bit here, but when they are Avengers Assemble moment and Van makes eye contact with Lottie at the lake, like something rekindled in her that was like, because she had been so distant from everybody for however many years it's been. It seems like it's, at least been 10 years or whatever. She kind of fell off the plane of like, okay, all that was fake, yada, yada, yada. Comes back, sees Lottie, and is like, shit, like, just like all those memories flooding back, and then her being like, shit, it was real. So I think I agree with Brian in the fact that Lottie got sent off because she was being crazy, or what everyone thought was crazy. And then, Van was like, oh shit, maybe I was crazy. Let me just distance myself. So
I just don't want to cap Supernatural in 1996.
I was with you, but that B-Tom's laid it out perfectly. I was a little worried where they were going with that, because then that would have also meant that Van and Lottie might have had a falling out in 1996.
That could still be true. That doesn't mean that it negates the sci-fi of it all either. Whether they fall out in 1996 or current, whatever year it is back in the day in the wilderness or after.
I mean, a lot of them fall out with each other. I mean, Nat and Travis, that was a bad example. But
I mean, there's something to say where like everyone's saying they all they did was fucked up shit, and they're saying the wilderness can hear us, can whatever, like all the chants, all the rituals, all the cutting of the hands, and then when they get out, Lottie doesn't speak again. They never hear Lottie speak again, which is literally what happens. Van's probably like, why'd I hitch my wagon to this girl? Like, we did a lot of fucked up shit, and she was the leader, and wow, what the fuck? So I think that's just a lot of it. I think the sci-fi, there is no ceiling on the sci-fi yet, but all the sci-fi things that we've seen so far, the spooky wind and all that stuff, they don't know that that's what happened. We saw it firsthand because we followed the wind with the camera, but they don't know that. So just because like sci-fi things can be happening all around them, that doesn't mean that they necessarily see them happen. Like even Jackie dying and that big storm coming out of nowhere, was that sci-fi? What did the wilderness bring that storm out of nowhere and kill her? It's like they wouldn't call that sci-fi, but maybe it is. Like, who knows?
Okay. No, I'm you guys convinced me.
Yeah.
Cool. But I will say, I think adult Van is just like, I'm hanging off her every word. I'm obsessed with her. She's so cool. Like, what a force to come in the back half of season 2 of a big gigantic show. Like, she's absolutely crushing it. Same, like, just so similar to young Van. It's fucking awesome, and I love her. I think she's funny. Her and Ty's have such good chemistry. I'm like, Simone who?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I thought it was
But
sorry, Simone.
We haven't even gotten an update on her in a while.
Yeah, I mean, she gets that call from Misty and says this might be the hospital. So she's at least thinking of it. But I have a big theory here that I've been seeing online. So Van and Ty, they go over the lady in the tree visit to Van last episode, where of course she tells her about the kiss. Van's like, there's no we, get out of here, you're married, whatever. Like,
And
the chemistry. What'd you say?
The "we're not supposed to be here" line was important too.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be here. That's the thing. Like, Ty's like, we,
Yeah.
me and you, which is so funny. But here's where the theory comes in. So Ty boldly asks about the bills in the trash. And Van's like, I have savings, don't worry about it. And the bills in the trash say family medical group, okay? It's not like, oh, your mortgage is whatever, fucked, it's family medical group. So of course it could be her mom, right? It could be from her mom. The bills say Vanessa Palmer, but of course, maybe she dies and she got stuck with the medical bills. But people were saying, could those bills be for herself? Like, why would Van have this, like, no long-term plan? Ty calls it out. What if there is no long run for Van? She's just living out whatever she can. She's happy. The pills she's taking are actually for her because she's sick.
Van's terminal, you're saying.
Like, people are saying Van is terminal and there is no future for Van. So that's why she doesn't give a fuck about having a failing business that isn't making any money and stuff. So we think, oh, she's a drug addict, but it's like because she's taking oxy, but maybe she's taking oxy because she needs to take oxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so sad. I don't want that to be a thing, but I think that is like one of the theories that really has legs so far.
I like it.
I can't think of anything to disprove that. And if anything, there's more validity behind that than, yeah, I like it.
I think the way that they could play it out in an interesting way could be to have like her dive back into the Lottie ritual stuff and it helps heal her. That would be an interesting plot point. But again, like, this is the first time hearing it, so I'm just kind of.
That's some Midnight Club stuff, Luke.
Yeah, right.
The one line that I thought was hilarious too with Van and Ty was when Ty asked her, like, are you like even dating? Are you even trying? And Van's like, I'm getting my needs met. And Ty just immediately responds, ew, gross.
Yeah.
It's so funny. He's talking about Tinder and everything. I just love that interaction. That was so funny.
That is true, though, because Ty was specifically like, I'm concerned that you're not even seeking out the pursuit of happiness. Like, you're not even trying. And that would be like a textbook mentality of someone who's processing their own death.
Well, she says,
death.
I'm scared you've given up on love. And Van says, don't flatter yourself. It's not about you. It could just be, I'm giving up on love because I'm dying, But all this could just be, she's taking oxy. She's just in a fantasy land. She literally says, which we've talked about on a previous pod, that she has this video store that's all stuck in the 90s, the 80s. Like, she's living in this fantasy world where all the bad stuff didn't happen. And it's in a world where you can possibly be happy because that's not a world they live in, unfortunately, at this moment. So a lot of good stuff. Not many scenes with this, but a lot of really interesting things. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with them. I mean, I feel like I know why I'm so obsessed with them.
That was a really funny line when, in the context of Lottie, Van's like, let's just let the past live in the past. And Ty's like, girl, you're running a VHS like shop for your entire career. Like, you are very much living in the 90s still.
Exactly.
Are we throwing the call that Tyson makes to Jeff into the Sean bucket?
Oh, wait.
It probably makes sense in the Sean because they're going to go to the police station together. So we'll just, because that's is that the last thing we have for Tyson?
Let's do the Misty call first because it's a bunch of granola losers, but the food is great. It was awesome.
And the BO factory is surprisingly low.
Yep.
But yeah, Luke, hit it.
No, I just meant like we should now back up if we're done with Tyson Van and start the Shauna stuff, and we'll catch up with their call.
Because
Hefe
Yeah,
had a strong app.
This was
always does.
I said it a lot last podcast. Like, I was so worried about how this whole police investigation was going to play out. And I will say that I'm basically as happy as I could be. Like, this was almost the best outcome possible. And I'll just admit it right now. I told Dave when we were watching the episode, I don't think I've ever 180'd on a character as hard in a show
Callie.
in recent memory as I have with Callie. Like, I fucking love Callie now. And I was in the beginning, like 3 episodes of this season, like saying how much I absolutely hated her, thought she was going to be an obstacle. But to me, she's now a highlight, and just add that on to the cherry on top of the whole family, because Jeff and Shauna are just like, they do it for me every time. So now I'm back into the mindset where fuck yeah, every time. What's their last name?
Litnicky or something?
Anytime
yeah, it's something weird like that.
Litnicky, yeah.
That's insane that doesn't sound familiar at all. But yes.
Yeah.
Anytime we see the Litnickies, if that's right, we'll check out on that. But it's just, this storyline was really, really good.
Yeah, it's a lot of. We can just go quickly. So Shauna gets the call at the house. Jeff's like, "I got your back," and she's like, "Sorry, not you, Callie," and he's mad. But it would have been better if you had sex with him. Line was all of us for this whole season.
I was
Funny.
screaming out of my chair how great of a line that was.
But that line comes from her fucking mother, which is
Yeah.
like mom of the year. You should have just had sex with this like 20-something-year-old.
Yeah.
Would have really bailed us out. Jeff actually blames Shauna for dragging Callie into it, and Shauna immediately throws Callie under the bus. It's like, this isn't my. Callie involved herself in it. Luke, oh my gosh. I do like Callie, but it's like the apple does not fall far from the tree. Like, she is just becoming a mini me, unhinged Shauna. It's like, oh my gosh, can we lie to cops some more? Oh my gosh, I'm ready to go. Put me in, coach.
It's awesome.
Little annoying, but I do love it.
Yeah, I loved this Matt and Callie standoff. Fucking Matt, that smug look on his face this whole time. Talk about bad
Loose
cop,
is
man.
loose, baby.
He is.
No, Matt was trying to play good cop. Kevin was trying to go bad cop on
You
Callie.
think? I had the opposite.
Oh, the way he like introduces himself. Oh, miss, I am Matt Sarcusa or whatever. Shall we begin in the other room?
Such a dick.
And Kevin's just like, I'm ready for you, Callie.
True. I think
like-
that's just Kevin's demeanor, though. Kevin doesn't have like a cheery bone in his body, but I could tell that Matt was being a fucking bitch.
Matt,
like they just-
Matt pisses me off, man.
The bad cop act definitely they knew would work better against Callie than it would Shauna. Like Kevin probably knew if they tried to bad cop Shauna, she would just give some shit back.
Were you guys surprised at how much Shauna gave in this?
Not surprised because she's
Unraveling.
oblivious to what she's supposed to be doing in these situations.
Mhm.
I want to almost attribute it to being by design. Like I think almost everything that happened was like slightly calculated by Shauna. I think she's that good of a liar. I could be completely wrong and she did just break, but the way it kind of worked out, I think she went in with this sort of light plan and it kind of worked.
I mean, so all she just confirms the affair with him, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, nothing much. But I thought the Cuse could like see right through her. Like, because he says, well done after her like overly dramatic like meltdown. He's like, okay.
The biggest question of it all is, okay, you had an affair. Why did your daughter lie to me about it? Like, why? And they could just play it off like, I don't know, this guy's missing. And Callie was questioning about it. So I told her that the affair was with Randy. And that's why we left. They could get out of it. It doesn't equate to murder, but she gave a lot of information. I'm going to tell you right now, she did not follow Misty's direction in saying, I want my lawyer. What was the cake for if she wasn't going to say, I want my lawyer? That's my question.
Luke, you keep saying you're beyond satisfied with how this questioning turned out. Like, what is the output that you're seeing? Because I think
I'm scared.
Callie relays, oh, they're scared shitless of me. That seems like way overconfident. I think she didn't do a flawless job with Kevin. I don't think any of that questioning would make them be like, well, it's not Shauna.
No, not at all. I don't think the trail's thrown off. I think the Cuse's whole story arc is going to be. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you for calling him the Cuse. I was trying to start it. Yeah, the Cuse.
Well, that's his name now.
His whole
Oh, yeah.
storyline is going to end with him either dying or winning, and he's not going to win because it's going to be a 5-season show. So with that in mind, I expected the absolute worst because if you're taking on like a realistic lens of like Shauna is booked tomorrow, like she's so that's the only reason I'm saying this was a win because like I assumed any form of interview was going to result in her going to jail because like realistically they have so much on her, and the fact that it didn't result in that, I'm taking it as a win. And I thought Callie did her part as best as she could. Like she says, like, who's the jury going to believe? Like we had sex. Like I don't know. I just felt like overall, like it turned out better than I thought it was going to. That's the only thing I'm getting at because there's no way that Kevin and the Cuse are done. Like they're going to keep going with this. And I'm sure it's going to culminate with, I don't think Jay/Matt makes it out of this season. I think like that's a good like season finale kill kind of thing because you have to get them off the trail. Otherwise we're going to be dragging out this FBI investigation over multiple seasons and that doesn't seem fun.
We'll see who a jury believes, especially when they ask me to describe his weird ass balls.
Yeah.
That was such a good line. Like,
I was about that.
goofy. I mean, Kevin immediately was like, no. And Callie's like, yeah, bitch. She doubled down. She was like, come at me, bro. And her being so proud when she gets in the car was phenomenal. She's like, I did it. Let's go. She's having fun. She's having fun at least.
Lying to cops.
That whole conversation ends because of like the phone call, whatever. She goes, fuck, are we going to jail? Like she was so happy and then so sad, but it wasn't about that. Because the couple things we missed here in the background that were happening. Another amazing Hefe moment when he is listening to NWA in the parking lot. It's like, fuck the police.
Yeah.
They're listening. It's so goddamn good. I hope he had some input into like making these scenes as awesome as they turned out to be, like this and Cut My Life in.
Yeah, he's a rider for sure.
Yeah. Playing that song, it's just him just in the front seat. I love it.
And when Shauna finally does come out and join him, he gives it to her. He's like, Shauna, you dropped the ball. You gave away way more. And that kind of starts this dialogue of, I got the call from Ty and Van. They're going to Lottie's compound. Like, if you have any sense of self-awareness left, you're going to get out of Dodge and hang low over there. I think this is right coming off the back that he found the pistol that's still in the car that she's been driving around with. And he's like, what if they like search the car? Very valid points. I think this is the first time Jeff is like, you're a liability if we are trying to dodge this case.
Yeah.
And can we talk about how bad of a liar Jeff is? Like, even when he gets that call from Taissa, he's like, oh yeah, Shauna's in the bathroom. She might be a while. Like, he is just the opposite of her, like in terms of lying. And it's just so fun to see him struggle because he's a good guy. And it's just, he's just caught up in all this and he's trying to be a good dad. And Shauna's making it impossible for him. But Callie's leaning into the Shauna side. It's just such an interesting dynamic. I never would have thought we were going to get here. Looking back at like early season 1 with like the what are they, the Lit
Nickies. Lit Nicky, yeah. Poor Jeff.
Are you confident in that, Brian?
No, because it also sounds deceptively like Linsky.
Yeah.
So like maybe I just formed that last name out of nowhere. If I am right, then I'm right, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Not even close.
Bad. Well, okay. Shauna's last name is Sadecki, which we
Sadecki.
Sadecki. What are the Lit Nickies? That sounds familiar.
I'm looking up Jeff's name now.
Yeah, because
Jeff Sadecki.
Shauna did have another name. I think they said it.
Shipman.
Okay.
Yeah, Shipman. They call her that all the time. Yeah.
Nikki. No, that is definitely something, man. I know what you're talking
I think it's an actor. Jonathan Lipnicki.
Yeah, it is. Jonathan.
Not an actor I know. Apparently a name I know, though.
This
so
is Tom's fault.
Everyone's listening to this being like, why are they saying Lipnicki?
They don't know either. Come on.
All right, wait. So I wanted to just quickly say when Jeff looks at Shauna, is like, you're out of control. And Shauna has a little breakdown being like, I know. And she's like crying in the car. That's what makes me feel like, Luke, it's not all calculated because she actually was like, fuck. And I just want to go through what she says because I think it's so hard. She says, I never even wanted to be a mom. I didn't start out a bad person. You have a kid that you don't want to save a marriage that you got into out of guilt and shame, and you can't let yourself love either of them, but you love them despite yourself, and you're just bad at it. Like, fuck. And it's a perfectly done speech with what we see with them as kids, like the baby, and she looks at this baby and is like, I'm sorry, I didn't think I wanted you, I love you, blah blah blah. And that was a devastation. And then Jackie dies, and then all of the, like, we don't even know what happens after that. Shauna's just been absolutely through it more than anyone,
And
so
I take it back. You're right. That part is all totally not part of the plan. But anything related to Adam, I thought, is what I was kind of hinting at. Is like,
sure.
But
I think we reunite. So Van was not going to go in, right? They're sitting outside, they're idling. She's like, let's just go to Denny's. And then fucking Shauna goes ripping with the van. Who knows how Shauna beat them there? She was driving 120 miles per hour apparently to get there because Van and Ty, I guess you could have been coming from different
Jersey's
places.
Closer. Van was in Pittsburgh, so they had to go all the way across Pennsylvania. It tracks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The show's tight with these plot holes, man. They already thought of it, Lean.
But I love Shauna just ripping by in that ugly maroon
in the
van.
red
It's perfect.
minivan, yeah, which Ty immediately recognizes. Oh, that's the Shipman's car.
And then
I'm
Van's
sorry,
like,
the
"Oh."
Sadecki's car, the Litnicki's car.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about it. My And thing to say is that Lottie is like full villain when she turns around. That girl does not smile. She and Van just entranced by her, and all of them standing watching her, and then the pull out, of course, is incredible.
Beautiful.
So
I want to
what do we got?
I think we should all vacation to that like little resort and just like by the
Looks
lake or whatever.
nice,
It's
yeah.
so beautiful. But yeah, I mean, Avengers Assemble, baby. I was fucking hyped. This is what I'm pretty sure the season 2 trailer was like. The main images stolen from that like was this scene right here, and it just looks so good. Van's face of just she was more surprised than any of the other girls, which will hopefully we get a little bit more into with these next coming episodes. But fuck, man. And then we get the zoom out of the layout of the
Yeah.
The compound,
complex.
yeah.
Compound, whatever. And it is, of course, the symbol. So I don't know. The symbol, like, is the symbol a good thing? Is the symbol a bad thing? If Lottie is running this wilderness retreat and is using the symbol at her hub, like, I don't know. I don't know. But this was a badass, great moment. Can we assume that these are the only people that made it out of 1996? Do you think? Like
Plus
everyone
Travis.
plus Travis. So like these girls, Travis. So we're assuming Ben Scott's dead, Akila's dead, random blonde hair girl's dead.
No, I don't know that we can assume, but
I feel like
I'm assuming.
I'm assuming because it's been so emphasized that we need to bring everyone that was in the wilderness here to this retreat. If Mari was still alive, we would have gotten scenes of Mari trying to get here. I feel like, if Coach Ben was still alive, I feel like we would have gotten scenes of them trying to get here. Like, I think the wilderness is just trying to reunite the remaining. This is my theory. Obviously, we have no idea if that's true or not. But I just think that how I'm taking it is that this is it. Everyone else is pretty much going to die.
well, Javi was
Well-
alive until Shauna killed him.
Facts.
Adam Martin.
Dead,
joke.
yeah. But all I will say, Dave, is that you know what they say. Assuming things makes an ass out of you and me. That's what they say about assuming. So just be careful.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Tie shit the bucket.
But no, just yeah.
You definitely did.
That's another theory that Kathleen and Jimmy had talked about that I really like too. I think with
What?
that there was a person. Actually, sorry, maybe this wasn't even on that theory. I think Alki actually brought this. I'm going to bring it up right now, really quickly. Alki has a theory that there is maybe not a group of people in the wilderness, but just one person that is living there and is using like the bunkers that I was alluding to in like whatever 2 episodes ago that is living there. And when Javi is saying, what did he say when Ben Scott was like looking at his pictures, like she kept me alive or something? Do you remember?
What did he say? She
Either
told
way,
me to
it
come
was
back
referring-
or something.
It was referring to she either way. And so we had thought that maybe she was referring to Thaisa, Lady in the Tree. But what if Javi has just been spending all this time with some random person surviving, and like maybe this person is the embodiment of the forest spirit? I forget kind of why I'm going down this route of talking about this theory, but pretty much Alki thinks that there is one person living out in the woods who was spending time with Javi, and that's how Javi survived all this time. And then when he was referring to she, that person living in the woods is what Javi was referring to. That's all I'm gonna say.
Put it on the board.
Okay, I also have something. So when Van says, keep your eyes peeled for the black and white Nikes, if you remember that, when they first get to the cult compound, and refers to the shoes worn by those in the Heaven's Gate cult in 1997, and Kool-Aid powder, which was laced with potassium cyanide and consumed by the members of the People's Temple in 1978. So it's just like that. At first, I thought I was about to go back into 1996 and being like, who's wearing black and white Nikes? Like, who are they referring to?
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just a reference to another cult. But I thought that was interesting.
Family Guy makes fun of that cult.
Really?
Yeah, there's an episode.
And American Dad.
And American Dad.
Of
They'll
course.
drink the punch and they'll come.
Are we ready for MVP Buzzkill?
I think we are.
So who
Great
hasn't
episode.
started in a while?
I think I started last time, I'm pretty sure. So I will go last this time.
Luke, start us
Okay,
off.
I can start. All right. MVP Callie, because this is the turn for me in my head where she's officially a positive character now. I'm riding for Callie, and I think she completes the family really well. And I already talked about how great I thought that investigation scene and Buzzkill the Cuse, because fuck that guy, dude. He has the most punchable face like on TV. Like the way he looked at them when they walked into the police station got my blood boiling, and I just want him to have like a super satisfying, just like gotcha moment, like
I want the forest god to rain its wrath.
something like that. Yeah, just like a heavenly, just fucking crush on. Fuck
Let's
this
eat
guy.
Jay. Let's get Jay eaten. That's what we're in for.
Go ahead, someone.
Fry.
All right, I guess I can go second here, I guess. MVP. I have two here. They're two good names. You know what? I'm going to give it to young Shauna. Anybody who gives childbirth and has to go through what she went through, take my MVP. Good job, Shauna, and great acting.
Yeah.
Buzzkill is going to be young Lottie, because anybody who's doing some crazy blood ritual to the side while Shauna's going through what Shauna went through, take a hike, go kick some rocks, do it somewhere else. Do not put any added stress on our girl. Wow, this is like back-to-back MVPs for Shauna, I believe.
Love that.
Okay.
You've changed.
Character growth for me and B Times with Callie. And
Yeah, good for us, man.
You're just like now.
All right. My MVP was going to be young Shauna. So I'm going to give it to someone I've never given it to before, which is Effie. I'm going to give it to him because I think he was very funny in this episode, but also he finally stood up to Shauna in a way that was like real. Like, girl, get your shit together. If you don't get out of town, you are going to bury us. So leave, which I liked. And the fuck the police, which is so fucking funny. So I'm going to give it to Jeff. And then my LVP, which isn't really a real one, but I'm going to give it to Kevin just because I'm like, where's your loyalty, brother? Where's that yellow jacket loyalty? Fucking
on this
Buzzkill.
podcast, we do not call it LVP. We call it Buzzkill.
Yeah, sorry.
You're just getting
I'm the one who came up with it too. Like,
Getting that from me, 'cause I say it every
I came up with it and I still fuck it up. But
Say it.
yes, he's a buzz fucking kill. Dave?
All right. We'll start with the MVP. I'm kind of like running on names here. I don't really have a good one. I'll give it to Akila, even though I had shit on her about touching the mouse and then getting into the whole birthing thing. But I'll give it to Akila because she stepped into a role that she was not expecting herself to step into.
That's nice.
Kind of did a decent enough job with it, I believe. So I'll give it to Akila.
Maybe didn't survive.
Yeah, but like I'm not putting that on the.
That's a first for the pod, though, I'll say. Akila's never gotten it before, so snaps for Akila.
Nice.
And then biggest buzzkill, Coach, going back to the birthing scene, just bailing on being the adult in the room and having to do what he needed to do. So unfortunately, we'll give it to Coach, even though I do love him.
Fuck yeah. All good ones. Episode 7, I keep saying this, apparently super lit. I don't know that an episode's not going to be super lit. We have 3 more left. 7, 8, 9. Why was 6 afraid of 7? What the fuck? Let's go. Anyway, so any parting shots from you guys before I bring us home?
You just got the parting shot. Why is 6 afraid of 7? That's it.
Speaking of 6 and 7, let's go 76.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's go.
About to tip off in a second here, so let's go.
All right. Word. So, like we said, we just recorded a Yellowjackets theories episode. So, if you are one like us who love to dive into theories, sometimes we don't have enough time on this pod because the episodes are so good to dive into every theory. So, me and Jimmy tried to hit all the little wacky theories we see everyone right, whether they have legs or not. We thought it was fun to explore, and it really was. So, thanks everyone for watching on YouTube and giving all the comments. It was the best reading all of them. So, but of course, we covered Season 1, we got Season 2. Go back and catch up if you haven't. Right now, we're finishing up. We just posted soon. We're going to post our Mandalorian finale. We've been covering Season 3. Succession is underway. Final season. It fucking rocks. So go smash the subscribe button. What'd you say?
Silo too now.
Oh, yes, that's a new one. Silo on Apple TV. The first 2 episodes, I believe, dropped. And so we will have coverage on that too. I know that has a big book following, so we are excited to get into that. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to dive in probably tonight. But yes, go hit subscribe. That's the best way you can, celebrate the pod with us. Talk to us on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, at Bingetown TV, at Bingetown TV, not at BingeOnTV.com is our brand new website that Jimmy created recently, and it's fucking awesome. And you can see like all 360 episodes we have. We're just absolutely grinding out here. Also, we did a Barry episode, episodes 1 through 4 of the final season. So that's fun. We'll be back for the finale of that as well. So, we're We're just doing what we do. Watching TV, recording podcasts. We're having fun. But we are Bingetown TV. And thanks for listening.